everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're in Concord, North Carolina at Cale Yarborough Motorsports. And Santa Claus came early for this team this week, a new sponsor, Thorn-Apple Valley Premium Meats, to go with a new driver, Greg Sachs, and a new crew chief, Mike Hillman. We'll cover that story and much more in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR.
The 1998 season will mark the 50th year of NASCAR racing. And in preparation for the occasion, the sanctioning body made some big announcements in the Big Apple. We'll take a look at a few of the things that are in the works for our sport's golden anniversary. After a lot of speculation about its future, Cale Yarborough Motorsports announced a new driver and new sponsor for the coming season. Greg Sachs gets the nod to drive the Fords vacated by John Andretti as the team gets a fresh start. 1996 was a dream year for crew chief Gary Dehart as he helped Terry Labonte capture his second Winston Cup title. But 1997 was a whole different story, with Gary ultimately leaving the team under difficult circumstances. You'll hear what really happened and what Dehart's plans are for next season. Those stories and more next on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by the UAW International Union and General Motors Corporation. Assembly line to finish line, teamwork wins.
NASCAR will celebrate its 50th anniversary in 1998, and it's going to be a big deal. You'll hear more about NASCAR racing than ever before. There'll be a lot of promotions going on throughout the year. Phil Wurz talked to some of the NASCAR officials and the drivers to get their thoughts on the celebration.
NASCAR Winston Cup racing has come a long way over the last 50 years. From a modest start on the beaches of Daytona, the Winston Cup Series has become one of America's greatest sports success stories. In 1998, NASCAR will celebrate its golden anniversary with more than 200 hours of television programming paying tribute to the sport. Plus, there will be many other things over the course of the next year designed to commemorate the 50 years that NASCAR Winston Cup racing has been a part of the American sports landscape. NASCAR made public some of those plans last week in New York City. Those plans have been exhaustive, taking hours of preparation to pull off. Give us an idea of how long the planning sessions and everything has gone into making this 50th anniversary a success.
60 people, about 200, or about 2 years of hard planning. And in the last 6 months, of course, we've really ramped it up. And we've all of our media partners, all of our licensees, marketing partners, everybody kind of coming together to promote a wonderful opportunity in our NASCAR's 50th anniversary. So it's an exciting time to be a part of NASCAR anyway. And then when you top on the 50th and all the things, all the coverage and all the exposure, we're just excited about 1998.
Well, we're really planning 17 national primetime television shows, weekly segments in all our licensed TV, radio shows, our publications, our online. We've got integrated promotions with sponsors, licensees, and retailers, and we've been planning this for about 18 months, and we're very excited about the response we've had from our corporate sponsors. But again, I think the real beneficiary is going to be the fan in our sport, because it's going to be an authentic portrayal of what makes NASCAR racing great.
R.J. Reynolds has been a part of NASCAR Winston Cup racing since 1971. And they'll do their part to make the 50th anniversary a big success. They've increased the point fund $1 million to a total of $5 million for 1998. That's a 5,000% increase over the years. Also, Winston's No Bull 5 program will give drivers and fans a chance to win as much as $5 million each over the period of the 1998 Winston Cup season.
NASCAR fans across this country can enter a sweepstakes, and just all they got to do is go stop by over 100,000 outlets, fill out the entry forms, and if a driver wins $1 million, the race fan's going to win $1 million. So the opportunity's there for race fans to win $5 million next year, and for the competitors to win $5 million in the Winston No Bull program.
NASCAR's 50th anniversary celebration will be unmatched in scope and precedence. It will be a year-long tribute to the drivers, the fans, and the people who have made Winston Cup racing what it is today.
Well, it's pretty impressive to see NASCAR grow and be what it is today, but to celebrate 50 years in NASCAR racing is great. I've not been around all them years, but I've been fortunate to be a big part of it and win some championships and really get to know the people with NASCAR, Mr. France especially, and it's great. It's going to be a big celebration all year long.
To be a part of this 50th anniversary, what does it mean to you?
A tremendous amount. This is special. You know, this is something that's going to happen as far as me as being a part of NASCAR one time, and it's just a tremendous opportunity for all of us. Very, very exciting. I think that probably being the champion in 1998 will mean more than any other year so far and looking down the road.
Overall, it's the Winston Cup fans who will benefit the most from this golden celebration, from the millions of dollars up for grabs for the fans through the Noble 5 program to special events and even things yet to be revealed. NASCAR is committed to the loyalist fans in all of sports.
Well, one of the things that our fans say is you know, don't give me all the fluff and this thing. Give me facts and give me things that I can learn about NASCAR. Well, this will be the biggest educational in a fun, of course, a fun way that you could ever ask for in terms of looking back, recognizing milestones that have helped us get to where we are, the variety of drivers that have been incredible in their respective tenure. So, all told, it's going to be great for the fans because they're going to be, that's who we're doing this for.
Yes, 1998 will be a trip down memory lane for NASCAR fans. But hey, even the guys who helped make some of those memories and will produce future ones have some of their own and are amazed at how far NASCAR has come and where it's going. With you and your father being part of this sport for so long, is there one particular memory that you can draw from and think back and say, hey, this was what makes NASCAR great?
You know, I think there's probably a couple for me. One goes back to 1965. My dad won the Southern 500 in Darlington. We went home, and it looked like the entire town of Camden was there in our front yard, and that's what makes it special. And then 1993, winning the Daytona 500, my first time, and my dad calling it. I think those are two things that I can remember that really make this sport special because of the family aspect of it, and knowing that it's been the France family that has brought us to this point.
It's just growing by leaps and bounds, and we're really enjoying the excitement of it. The racing has just gotten more competitive and better, and that's what it's all about on the track, the racing. And so it's just more fun every year. We just work here and try to win some more races and be a bigger part of it.
Well, thanks, Phil. It's going to be exciting, to say the least. Let's check in now with Tyler Potter to catch up on all the news.
Well, it didn't take Cale Yarborough long to find a new driver. 3 weeks after losing John Andretti to Richard Petty's STP team, Yarborough inked Greg Sachs to a 3-year deal with Thornapple Valley. Sachs began last year driving the 20 car, but when that fell through, he spent some time filling in for a host of other teams. Now we can't wait for 98, literally. Phil Wurz will have much more on Sachs and his new sponsor coming up later in the show. And speaking of new faces and new places, Phil Hammer has been named crew chief of the new Washington Irving Winston Cup team. This despite the fact there's no driver, sponsor, car number, or shop location. Now the driver vacancy is expected to be filled soon by Rich Bickle after his departure from Darrell Waltrip Motorsports. When it happens, he'll be reunited with Hammer, who's worked with Bickle for some 16 years. Hammer had been with Hendrick Motorsports the last 4 years. Buddy Parrott's moving up the Rouse ladder. The former crew chief for Jeff Burton is now the general manager for the 99 and 6 teams. The two teams just recently moved into a new shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. Frank Stoddard assumes the duties as crew chief for the 99 after spending the 97 season in the co-car chief role. He's been with the Exide team since its inception 2 years ago. And finally, it was announced that Steve Park's Pennzoil Chevrolet will carry the number 1 during the upcoming season. Richard Jackson's Pontiacs had carried that number last year, but Jackson agreed to swap the 1 for Park's number 14 for the 98 campaign. Park's hoping to be number 1 just like his sponsor. Pennzoil's the number 1 selling motor oil in America.
Mike Hillman and his crew are busy building new Tauruses for the 1998 season here at Cale Yarborough Motorsports, and we'll meet the new driver, Greg Sachs, right after this break. This is the very car that won the Pepsi 400 at Daytona this year with John Andretti at the wheel. It was John's first win in NASCAR Winston Cup competition and also was the first win for Cale Yarborough Motorsports. Needless to say, this is a very special car to this team. They haven't started to cut it up yet to make a Taurus out of it, and I'll bet you they don't do it for quite a while because the car is so special to them. Well, next year, John Andretti's name will come off of these cars, and Greg Sachs' name will go on. It'll be the first full-time ride for Greg in quite a while, and he's looking forward to the challenge. Phil Wurz talked to him this week.
For Greg Sachs, 1997 was like playing musical chairs. After his original ride with Rainier Walsh and Hardee's disbanded, Sachs spent the rest of the year getting rides where he could find them. He became NASCAR's ultimate utility player, filling in mostly with Team Sapco. He ran in only 12 races. His average finish, 33rd. Not a good situation to be in for a driver looking for a permanent ride from a pinch hit role.
A lot of cases, you know, I've done fill-in work where basically when the driver gets healthy, you're out of a ride. So you've got to take that opportunity to try to shine to see if you can attract, you know, another team, you know, to be interested in you and attract another sponsor. So, you know, it's more than just, you know, keeping the ride that you're in. It was to try to create things, make something happen for myself.
And finally, something has happened for Greg Sachs. He's joined Cale Yarborough Motorsports for the 1998 season, and earlier this week, Thorn Apple Valley came aboard as the primary sponsor. Sachs finally has the full-time gig.
It's comforting, it's relief, it's excitement. You know, it's kind of a combination of all three. I'm really looking forward to 1998 and the 98 machine. You know, I'm kind of a numbers kind of guy, and that sounds lucky to me. But, you know, to have Thorn Apple Valley Premium Meats on board as our sponsor, you know, great product for, you know, Cale Yarborough's team's a great team. They've got such a strong engine program.
Sachs has also been reunited with fellow New Yorker crew chief Mike Hillman. They worked together this past season at Team Sapco and have known each other for years. Both feel the combination of their talents and a strong engine program is the foundation for future success.
Mike Hillman and I have a lot of confidence in one another. I really believe in what he can do and the car that he can give me to compete with. And I know that he believes in what I'm doing in the car and that I'll get 100% out of it. And with that in mind, you know, this was a perfect opportunity for the both of us to join and come here to succeed together. You know, Mike wouldn't have come here with me if he didn't believe in the opportunity and believe that we had a chance for success here. And at Cale Yarborough Motorsports, I know we do.
He knows he's got a ride, and you know, that makes all the difference in the world. I think he's found a home here, and he and Mike Hillman have worked together before. The chemistry is there, so we don't have to wonder about whether they can work together or not. And everybody in my racing team were in favor of these two. So, you know, we got everybody on the same page. It's hard to lose that way.
What I like about him is I think today he's more dedicated physically and mentally to Winston Cup racing than I've ever seen him. And his desire to win is immense. And it's all there right now, you know. He gives you 100% every lap. I think he's never had a really good opportunity in a sound performance ride to make this happen. And I think you know, Cale Yarborough Motorsports with Thorn Apple Valley Farms on board, it's just going to be an awesome opportunity for both of us. So, you know, we got a great motor program, which is no secret to anybody.
And it was a strong motor that rocketed John Andretti to victory lane as he dominated this year's Pepsi 400 at Daytona. Ironically, Sachs' lone Winston Cup win came in that very same event back in 1985. I know you're probably wondering, if RCA is out, why isn't this car painted the colors of Thorn Apple Valley? Well, hey, we don't even know what the car is going to look like, but we're all going to find out together next month in Winston-Salem at the NASCAR Winston Cup Preview. This is Thorn Apple Valley's first experience in NASCAR, and a welcome one for owner Cale Yarborough. After losing RCA, driver John Andretti and crew chief Tony Furr in quick succession, the new sponsor saved this team.
They wanted to get involved in Winston Cup racing. They're going to be part of the 50th anniversary for NASCAR, and so we started talking and just put it together. And then, you know, I had to come up with a driver and a crew chief, and to be able to get Greg Sachs and Mike Hillman as driver and crew chief, it's just been great. So here we are a few weeks down the road with no sponsor, no driver, no crew chief, with a fine 3-year sponsor and a fine driver and a fine crew chief. So I'm very fortunate.
in the final analysis, we said, we can't say no to this. This is an opportunity that will come once in our lifetimes, and we need to take this opportunity that's been presented to us and go for it.
With this full-time ride, do you feel like this is your best chance to get back to victory lane in a while?
Without a doubt. And to try to develop into a steady competitor, not just a streaky competitor. I've always felt that, you know, I've been able to be fast at certain tracks, but I want to work on being faster week in and week out. And I think if we can do that, those victories will come.
We've talked about the personnel changes here at Carroll Yarborough Motorsports, and there are other changes too in racing, and one major one is Gary Dehart, who was the crew chief on the winning team, winning the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship in 1996 with Terry Labonte. Well, Gary left that team in September of this year and now has been named team manager and crew chief for Team Amick, which is a Busch Series car. Lyndon Amick is the driver. He has his reasons for making what you might call a step down. Stephanie Boyd-Durner talked to Gary this week about that challenge.
In 1996, Terry Labonte and crew chief Gary Dehart took their Hendrick Motorsports team to the pinnacle of NASCAR racing, the Winston Cup title. So it came as a huge surprise when Dehart resigned as crew chief at the end of September, over 3/4 of the way through their championship season. Rumors of infighting and overstress surrounded that announcement, but initially Dehart was supposed to stay with Hendrick in another capacity. Instead, he left altogether a few weeks ago and is now the crew chief and general manager for Busch Grand National driver Lyndon Amick.
I think the biggest thing, the reason I left Hendrick was because I wanted to do something on my own. And working for Rick, I love him like my brother, and I think the world of him. And you know, we've built a great team over there. I felt like I've been part of Hendrick Motorsports, and I've helped build it, and it broke my heart to walk away from it. But I wanted to just do something on my own, and you call it nerves or what you will. I felt like that for me to survive in racing, I need to back off a little bit and do something different. And I first started to run my own business, run my own team, or start in the chassis building business or something. And then I met Bill Amick, and he kind of, we had a good chit chat, and we decided that, well, I'll work with you for a couple of years or maybe 3 years, and we'll try to help develop Lyndon. And I said, well, you know, that might be the thing to do also. So it was just an arrangement I come to get here.
With roughly 20 years NASCAR experience under his belt, 7 of those as a Winston Cup crew chief, Dehart had a number of offers after leaving the Kellogg's team. But he says the chance to work with an up-and-coming driver in a family operation is just the situation he needs right now.
Some of the teams that approached me were, man, I had to travel. I had to relocate. I had to move if I did it the way it needed to be done. So I backed away from that. Some of the teams that approached me, I felt like it was for the wrong reason. I'd be jumping out of the frying pan back into the fire. And I said, you know, this deal right here is a father and son relationship. And I felt like, well, that's for the right reason. Bill Amick is wanting to do what he can for his son. And if he goes outside and hires me to come along to help him do that, then that's great. I know what my purpose is in my job here.
To me, I think everybody else, it makes us a totally different team. I mean, when Gary comes aboard, I think everybody in the shop picked up their work ethic and everything up a level, you know, and everybody's really tuned in another notch to really get after it and really get things going.
The 1996 Goodies Dash Series champion, Amick only ran a partial Busch schedule in '97. Next year, he'll run the full deal, though, and he says having Dehart on board has stepped up his expectations.
I think probably in the top 15, you know, that would be good for me and for Gary to finish in the top 15 consistently. I mean, I think that's an achievable goal, but it's high enough that where it'll be something good we could do. I mean, to run in the top 10 and maybe in the top 5 a couple races would be a really good year for really my first year in the Busch Series. And if we do that, we're going to finish in the top 15 in points too.
It's going to take a lot of work, but I am excited. You know, coming to a nice facility like this and working with a group of new guys and everything, and Lyndon is certainly very, very nice to work with. He's a neat kid, you know. And we got some good cars. His dad wants to get the right equipment. So, hey, you know, we got everything we need. We just got to put it together and show up.
When Dehart worked at Hendrick Motorsports, there were nearly 200 employees. That's opposed to here at Team Amick Motorsports, where there are roughly 10 employees. Now, some people might see that as a step back, but DeHart says it's really a step forward toward its future.
That's exactly the way I look at it. You know, me and Bill talked about it a whole lot, about the team. And if we can do this thing for 3 years and we can make it be successful for Bill Amick and Lyndon Amick, Team Amick and Gary DeHart, then we're looking at down the road maybe becoming a partnership thing. And I got to look at that also, you know. And I'd be fooling you if I said anything different. I'm looking at it, what can Gary DeHart end up with in 5 years, you know? And where would I be if I stayed at Hendrick Motorsports? I think I'm going to be better off doing what I want to do. Or at least I've done it my way anyway.
Hi, this is Jeff Hammond, crew chief of the Parts America Chevrolet. A lot of times race fans will look at me and they'll say, you're going to run the same car you ran at Rockingham, at Darlington, or Martinsville and Richmond, for example? I say, yes. Well, how do you get the car set up properly for the two different types of racetracks? Well, one thing that we run into is we're having to set the camber and the caster for the different tracks to make the car handles properly. When we get to the racetrack, a lot of times we need to fine-tune the camber or the caster. We do this by using what we call front-end shims. Front-end shims come as small as a 32nd, 1/16, 1/8, or even a 1/2 inch, which we make ourselves. What we have to do at the different racetracks is we get into a situation where the camber, which is the in and out on the tire, what the camber affects is the heat from the inside of the tire to the outside of the tire, also the wear. So we'll take the shims, as you can see here, and we'll adjust them accordingly. Sometimes Darrell or any other driver may want to make an adjustment in what they call their caster. Caster deals with the A-frame or the spindle being on a fore to aft location. That means cocking it frontward or backwards. We'll take the shims and stagger them to change the feel on the steering wheel to make the car drive a little different, make it work better for them, therefore make the car hopefully faster or to make it better on long runs during a race. So these little tiny shims that we use are very important as far as getting the fine-tuning on these race cars and getting the speed out of them.
We need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have a story on rain tires. For the first time in the history of NASCAR, qualifying was held in the rain in Japan. And we'll look at that when we come back.
I never drove in the rain at speeds like that, but man, the car handled pretty good. It really did. We didn't change the race setup much for driving on the wet, and at least I got to experience it and got to be part of something to go down in history.
You know, qualifying or racing in the rain is not unusual in Formula One and other types of road racing. But in NASCAR Winston Cup racing, it is highly unusual. Until the Suzuka 100 a few weeks ago in Japan, NASCAR had never conducted any type of competition in the rain. But they were forced to qualify for that race in the rain. Goodyear, fortunately, had brought some rain tires there, and they worked out okay, but it did present a challenge for the drivers and the teams. But what was learned from it? Do rain tires have a future in NASCAR Winston Cup racing? Tyler Potter has the story.
I thought I was going to wreck every corner. Spent my whole time sliding from one side to the other of the racetrack.
I never drove in the rain at speeds like that.
It just feels like you're on ice all the time.
What was it like out there driving around with those tires? Did you have control of the cars?
To a point.
Puts it back in the driver's hands to do a good job and drive the car, and that goes back to the way racing used to be before a lot of aerodynamics came into play, and the driver has to control the car in with throttle.
You're part of history today. I guess it had to be kind of neat being out there for the first time qualifying in rain tires. You're a pioneer, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think I'm a dummy the way we did it. We had a pretty good car, and we put on the new rain tires for qualifying. That wasn't the way to go. We lost about a second when we put the new tires on, so we learned something, but I should know better.
We didn't change the race setup much for driving on the wet, and at least I got to experience it and got to be part of something to go down in history.
The rain tire, much softer than the regular Goodyear radial and grooved to channel out water from underneath the tire. The hand grooving was time-consuming and expensive for Goodyear, but they couldn't have been happier with the results.
It went beyond anything I personally expected. It had a great forward bite. It stopped. It did everything it was supposed to. And the thing is that it's on a 3,400-pound car rather than a 2,200-pound car.
Driving with rain tires is nothing new for Dale Earnhardt and Mark Martin. They tested tires similar to this at Watkins Glen back in 1995.
They were tricky to drive on at Watkins Glen for whatever reason. And, you know, these worked like they were supposed to. The cars drove good. It felt sort of like driving, you know, down a dirt road, you know, a country road. And that's really what you want, something that's controllable and comfortable. And, you know, Goodyear had, you know, had a perfect tire for doing this.
It was like deja vu for Wally Dallenbach, who's rain tested from his Trans Am days.
Well, it makes a difference. I mean, anytime you have experience on the rest of the guys, if they haven't driven in the rain or whatever, that helped. Actually, these cars really didn't do much different than a Trans Am car does in the water. I mean, it really has to feel, you have the same feel. It's like driving on ice. I think Goodyear did a good job with the tire. You know, I wouldn't see a problem racing in the rain if we had to.
And that just might happen. Goodyear will test several different sets in the not-too-distant future. And if all goes well, they could be implemented by NASCAR at a road course like Watkins Glen.
It's going to change actually the shape of stock car racing on not on ovals, but on road courses, in that we know that we'll be racing on Sunday no matter what. And that'll be a great boon for the sport. It'll be great help to the fans, whatnot, so they won't have to come back to the track on Monday.
Now, the tires may be a go, but the same can't be said for the windshield wiper and defroster, which still have some kinks to be worked out.
The problem we'd have is that if we had to do this all the time, we definitely have to work on the windshield, on my visor, to keep all the fog out and all the rain and stuff like that, because the inside of my windshield kept fogging up real bad. I get about 4 laps, and then I'd get to where I couldn't hardly see anything.
How was your windshield wiper working?
Once we got it adjusted, and that was one of our problems qualifying. We couldn't see because the windshield wipers weren't working very good. We finally got that problem solved, and defrost problem was another problem, but we got it all solved.
And then there's that tail light.
Tail light in the back, believe me, when you're behind a car, if you're 50 yards behind another car, you can't see the tail light, let alone the rear of the car. So, I mean, it's, you know, I don't know what the tail light thing is supposed to accomplish, but I think maybe if you were racing in close quarters, you could see the tail light. But, man, these things put up some serious rooster tails, so it's tough to see when you're behind somebody. Rain is a great equalizer. Doesn't matter how much horsepower you have, doesn't how good your car is or how much brakes you have. You just got to drive the thing and try to be as smooth as possible. So I enjoy it. I think it's a blast.
Well, thanks, Tyler. It will be interesting to see what happens as far as rain tires are concerned in NASCAR Winston Cup racing. Well, it's time for us to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have the mailbox, and we have lots more for you in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR, so you stay with us.
Hi, I'm Darrell Waltrip. Every Christmas there's one present I really look forward to, the NASCAR Winston Cup Yearbook. The 97 edition promises to be better than ever, containing behind-the-scenes stories from every race, packed with great colored pictures, and even a page for autographs. The NASCAR Winston Cup Yearbook is a collector's dream that is sure to appreciate over the years. My old buddies Earnhardt, Gordon, Jarrett, Martin, and yes, even old DW. All the stars, all the tracks, right here in this beautiful leather-bound coffee table book. Don't miss your chance to own the only official record of the 97 NASCAR Winston Cup season. This is the book that's presented at the NASCAR Awards Banquet in New York. Not available in bookstores, only a limited number available to the public, and at $39.95, well, they sell out fast. Reserve your copy now. Call 1-800-922-9287 or send your check to the address shown. I like the publisher so much, I asked them to do one about my 25th year. Ask your operator about it.
The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Michael McAllister from Baldwin, Missouri. How can air pressure make a difference when the radial tire is said not to grow like the bi-ply tire does?
Yes, I'm Billy Hodges with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. I'm a race tire technician. Michael, thank you for the question. It's an excellent question. Most of your street racing or Saturday night racing, they use bi-ply tires, and they do grow, and the stagger will change. But with the radial tires in the Winston Cup and the Busch and the Truck Series, it does not grow, so air pressure becomes very critical. Because that tire will not grow, it will build air pressure, and the air pressure will keep getting greater and greater and greater. So to control that, that's why the teams adjust air pressure during each pit stop to help adjust their car. These Winston Cup teams can now do more with air pressure than they can with wedge adjustments and track bar adjustments.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentic, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
They have lots of Tauruses under construction here at Cale Yarborough Motorsports, getting ready for 1998. And speaking of 1998, I want to remind you of two special events that comes up early in the year. On Friday, January the 9th, the annual NASCAR Busch Preview is scheduled for Hickory, North Carolina at the Catawba Valley Mall. Most of the Busch drivers will be there to sign autographs starting at 4:30. Then on Saturday, January the 10th, the annual NASCAR Winston Cup Preview, presented by Hayes Jewelers, is scheduled at the Lawrence Joel Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So hope you can make one or both of those. We'll be back with more on Inside NASCAR right after this. The NASCAR Winston Cup teams and officials of NASCAR continue to add safety to the race cars by adding braces and roll bars here and there throughout the car. Well, occasionally there are other products that comes along that help to make the cars either safer or make life a little bit easier maybe for the driver. And such is the case with a new product that was introduced about a year ago by Bruce Kemmler, which was designed originally to help the driver be a little bit more comfortable in his seat, but they found other uses for it too. Stephanie Boyd-Durner has that story.
Driver safety. Anyone associated with NASCAR will tell you that's the sport's #1 priority. From roll cages to roof flaps and everywhere in between, there's a constant push in racing to build not only a better, but safer mousetrap. As a result, all kinds of development has been done on the one area that most closely protects the driver, the seat. And that's where Bruce Kemmler comes in. Just over a year ago, Kemmler introduced the first Kemmler driver's seat, a revolutionary padding that absorbs up to 15 times the shock of the traditional foam padding used in race seats. And since then, he's expanded his clientele to over 30 top NASCAR teams.
This looks like a gel, but it's actually a stable solid. It is a viscoelastic dry polymer, and it will never fully compress because it is a stable solid. Therefore, it distributes the weight evenly, as well as the impact.
In the bottom of my seat, I used to have just foam rubber. It squashed down, and you put it in there and trying to make it fit. It was pretty hard and really hard to adjust that to make it work properly. Took that out, put this in, and I said, I don't believe it. I mean, I didn't have a sore back after the race. My spine, my lower back felt a whole lot better than it did before.
All this is a component system. These components are made to fit the standard 7 seats on the market. There's 6 pieces. There's a back piece that fits right in here, goes up to about there. There are thigh pads that fit right in there. Above that is a rib pad. Bang, right in there, in the rib. Very easy to put in. Doesn't take much shop time.
Kemmler says for the teams that would rather do their own work, his company is now making a sheet of the padding that can be cut to fit 2 seats. He says not only does it increase safety, but it reduces vibration for a smoother ride, which in turn makes the drivers more comfortable.
You know, his theory is that the gel, the material, actually absorbs some of the shock impact that we go through on a racetrack because the car goes over bumps or whatever. And it does. It takes some of that really harsh impact out, the jarring, and you end up with a better ride, a more comfortable seat, and less aches and pains.
From seats, Kemmler's product has evolved into all kinds of other uses, from shoulder harness pads to shoe insoles that became the #1 new product seller on QVC.
One of the drivers had problems at a short track, Martinsville, because his foot would fall asleep. He was banging the brakes so hard all the time. Put those in and no problem anymore.
Drivers aren't the only one who use the insoles. Fans can get them, along with the new fan seat that Kimmler has developed. He's also marketing a seat for hunters and is creating a new standard for comfort with a seat for motorcycle riders. But even he says he wasn't quite ready at first when professional football came knocking at his door.
The shoulder pad idea actually came from NASCAR because the trainers for one of the NFL teams do a lot of work with NASCAR drivers. So it just made sense to try it in their padding, thigh pads, shoulder pads, rib pads, everywhere that they get really shellacked on the field. So that was an outshoot from our original work with NASCAR.
Now Kimmler is working on another new development for use in NASCAR, a new cool seat. It's an area that's been tackled many times before, as temperatures in the cockpit are nearly unbearable. But if the success of his padding is any indication, Kimmler's work in progress could eventually have drivers leaving their cars even more comfortably than ever.
It's hard to believe that the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup season will mark the sanctioning body's 50th anniversary. A little earlier, Bill showed us how the sport has grown in leaps and bounds over the past 5 decades. We all know who Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, and Mark Martin are. Of course, they took the top 3 spots in this year's NASCAR Winston Cup Championship. But what about Red Byron, Lee Petty, and Bob Flock? They were the top 3 in NASCAR's first strictly stock division championship. The winners in the 8-race season back in 1949 included Jim Roper, Byron, Flock, Curtis Turner, Jack White, and Petty. The first race was held on June 19, 1949 at the old Charlotte Speedway in Charlotte, North Carolina. With 150 laps on a 3/4-mile dirt track complete, it was Jim Roper taking the very first NASCAR victory. And Bill France saw his dream come true as NASCAR took off. In that first season, races were held on the beach in Daytona and places like Hillsboro, North Wilkesboro, and Martinsville. And even though NASCAR was considered a good old boy Southern sport, 3 of the 8 races in 1949 were held north of the Mason-Dixon line. They took place in Pittsburgh and Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and Hamburg, New York. Now let's look a little further back to December 1947. France held a 3-day meeting in the Ebony Lounge at the Streamline Hotel in Daytona. By early 1948, NASCAR was formed, and as they say, the rest is history. From the visionary eyes of Bill France and 50 years of growth, NASCAR has become the strongest and most followed sport in the country. By the way, the first NASCAR purse was $5,000. The winner, Jim Roper, got $2,000 for his efforts, while 20th place Otis Martin won a whopping $25. By comparison, last year's Daytona 500 winner, Jeff Gordon, won over $377,000, while 20th place Ernie Irvan won a little more than $72,000. So yes, a lot has changed as NASCAR begins to celebrate its golden anniversary.
We need to take a break right now, and as we do, let's take a look at what we have coming up next week right here on TNN on Inside NASCAR.
Anyone involved in NASCAR racing will tell you that it's not only a popular sport, but it's big business as well. We'll take an in-depth look at the financial side of racing and get some insight from several of the sport's major players. Morgan Shepherd makes his annual Christmas visit to Virginia. We'll tag along to help spread the spirit of the season and get the scoop on Morgan's plans for next year. Plus, you'll find out how the science of cryogenics is playing a role in racing. Those stories and more are under the tree next week on Inside NASCAR.
Tabasco will be a sponsor in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing in 1998. They'll be on the Todd Bodine Pontiac. They showed up at the Atlanta Motor Speedway last month for the Napa 500 and what they call Tabasco Hot Zone. cooked a variety of foods using their sauces, and it came in handy on a very cold weekend there, and that is the subject of this week's Inside NASCAR Profile.
Well, today we're fixing coffee shake and peg, one of our favorite Cajun dishes. Last night we fixed a chicken and sausage gumbo with andouille sausage. We used Chef Paul Prudhomme's andouille sausage, and everybody thought it was absolutely wonderful.
Sound delicious? Well, let me introduce you to Chef Lionel Robin and the latest innovation in racing hospitality, the Tabasco Hot Zone. Now, the Hot Zone is a 53-foot traveling restaurant with a capacity of up to 150 folks. On a given race weekend, Chef Lionel and his staff cook for over 300 people. The chef hails from Henderson, Louisiana, where he runs his own Cajun establishment, Robin's. Lionel was selected by Paul McElhenney of the McElhenney Company to run the Tabasco Hot Zone throughout the 1998 season.
You know, my love for NASCAR has been 23 years, and I've always wanted to incorporate Tabasco with NASCAR because I thought it was just a natural match. And finally talked Paul into sponsoring NASCAR, and my love for NASCAR and my love for great cooking and food and people, here I am. So I'm looking forward to introducing NASCAR to a lot of Cajun dishes.
You didn't really think I'd take the food at the media center over this, did you?
He's knocking them dead all over the country, in Indianapolis and Charlotte, now in Atlanta, and all 33 markets we hope next year. Certainly all the major races for you guys in 98.
Anybody else do this kind of hospitality like what you guys put on here?
I've had several team members and other people say that we're kind of helping set a new standard as a sponsor with our hospitality zone and our kitchen. So, and we're novices and brand new to the sport, so we're excited about that.
All right, give us an idea now, Todd, what it's like going out if you were to eat some of this food before you get out in the race car and go in a race, because, man, that stuff you would think would cut right through you.
Yeah, it's you got to be careful, that's for sure, but Lionel, he takes care of me on that end. We've already got a deal next year. He's going to make me pasta every night before the race, because that's what I usually eat. But, you know, it's kind of hard to not eat the other stuff and enjoy it on race morning and stuff, but, you know, I'm sure he'll take care of me.
Now, for you fans out there, I'm afraid you're out of luck, at least on race weekends. You see, the Tabasco Hot Zone is a private party. But hey, nobody's stopping you from going to the chef's restaurant in Louisiana.
Well, our time has come and gone for this show. We hope you enjoyed it. Our thanks to all the folks here at Cale Yarborough Motorsports for allowing us to show you around this new facility. They just moved in here earlier this year, a big, spacious shop. You join us again here on TNN for more on Inside NASCAR.